Right. Now, listen to this.
Pass rate of the licensure examination has been around between 60 and 70%. That is when you have fresh students mingling with reciters. But this year, the fresh students are moving into a new era of examination, a new dispensation. So they were not combined with, or they were not allowed to join the reciters. So it was exclusively for reciters, people who have written the examination 10 times, 9 times, 8 times, and so on, and have not been successful. And so their chances, in fact, studies have shown that when people continuously write the examination, they are not passing, their chance of passing is very very low. And so it's not a surprise that a lot of them could still not make it.
So if that's the case, what would be the remedy then for people like that? Because like you say, after continuous writing for a number of times, it will be difficult for them to pass. What will be the remedy then?
Yeah, we are proposing 2 ways to deal with it. After November writing, if they are not able to pass, those who are diploma holders must go for further studies and acquire degrees to be able to do it. I think those with degrees who have not been able to make it will need to do extra classes and so on to be able to do it. Fortunately for the degree holders, we are reforming the exam. And so the new reform may favor them because a lot of them complain about numeracy, literacy, because those are not their area of specialization. Somebody might have specialized in, let's say, Ghanaian language, but expected to write a paper in literacy and numeracy, and it's a challenge to them. But then the principle is that you need a little bit of literacy to be able to deliver in the class. If you're a teacher and you cannot express yourself, how will you be able to deliver? How will you be able to teach? How will you be able to explain concepts to the understanding of your learners? That's a challenge. And that is why a minimum level of literacy is so important for every teacher, irrespective of the area of specialization, because the means to deliver the content is the language.
Right. So you just heard Dr. Christian Adepoku, the registrar of the National Teaching Council. He's right here in the studio. Good morning, sir. Thanks very much for making time to join us.
Good morning, Samson, and greetings to our listeners.
Great. We also have joining this discussion Peter Nochu Kote, who is the MP Akachi North and Ranking Member, Education Committee of Parliament. Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor of Political Science, University of Ghana, and Professor Nicholas Insoa Nyama, who is President, Dominion University College. Gentlemen, good morning to all of you and welcome to Newsfile.
Thank you very much.
Great. So, you have been very disturbed. I'm talking about you watching and listening now. Share your questions with us, your concerns, your comments, let them come through. Tweet them. And remember, this is Newsfile. Tweet them at us, and we will file your questions to those who are right here in the studio and joining us by Zoom, because we have the right people to answer your questions. So, to start with, I began by reading a comment by this researcher by name Reginald Sechi Brown. And he said, a teacher who is supposed to teach your child writes a receipt 9 freaking times for basic literacy. Of course, numeracy is there, and then you have the other skills that you are asking. Exams. What kind of education will your child be subjected to? That's the sort of question that mirrors the way many people are thinking, parents, guardians, everybody else is thinking. What is going on? Such that over 7,000, almost 8,000 teachers sit an exam, which is supposed to be basic, very, very basic in literacy and numeracy, and a whopping 6,481 fail, 83% of that number. You are in charge. What have you discovered is the problem? You've already started talking about the solutions. We'll get to that. But what is the problem?
Thank you very much, Samson. This comment is a clear buttress of the gatekeeping role of the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination. I think the nation studied the trends over a long period of time. Before this time, to enter a college of education, one needed to write examination and then go through interview. I'm sure Honorable Nuchu went through that. I did. And then you were recruited. I mean,
that's after passing your WASI?
Yes. But at a point in time, the process was reversed. Now, we set a minimum qualification as set by Ghana Teacher Education Commission, and that is the minimum grade of WASI at grade 36. And that is all you need to enter a teacher education institution, whether it's a college of education or a university. And then you go through the training.
The minimum grade the universities take is what? 36. Universities?
Yes.
To enter a university?
To enter a university is 36. That is, you should have 666, average of 6 in 6 subjects. 3 compulsory subjects, which English, Maths, Integrated Science, or Social Studies, so, and then your other 3.
So there's exactly no difference in the entry level grade for those who want to go to university and those who want to go to teacher training college?
Exactly.
Okay.
The difference here is that universities have cut-off point for specific programs. Right. If you go to nursing, I think currently nursing, if you have even a grade 16 and beyond, you won't get a chance to read nursing. So there's a cut-off point. Even though 36 qualifies you, nobody will admit you to do nursing at 36. That is the challenge we face at our end, one of the challenges we face. Then, beyond that, if you
for most of the courses in the university, the cut-off, even for the humanities, will be what?
18, 24.
24. Right. So is there a cut-off point for the entry to the training colleges as well?
Presently, no.
There is not.
There's no.
So 36 and you are fine?
You're fine. Okay. So whichever, from 7 or 6 to 36, whichever is still workable. Okay. And there are no screening, gatekeeping screening for you. So it's just open, the institutions take you. But that is not even the point, because the colleges of education still are a bit rigorous about how they select. But when it comes to distance training, that is where the real issue is. Distance and sandwich programs are the biggest issues for us. If you look at NTC data over the time, at any point in time, you see average of between 50 and 65% of the people who fail are through distance. Through distance and a sandwich mode, and to some extent online. Regular candidates tend to do better in the exam. So the challenges are many, but for me, I always say that to some extent we can say that the candidates are victims, because institutions that are supposed to train them are supposed to bring them out well refined and fit for the purpose. Because you have admitted people not just for any program, but for a professional program. And so before you churn them out of the institution, they should be capable of fitting well into that profession. A profession that uses language to really train people's affective skills, psychomotor, and other skills, cognitive skills, and so on. If that person is not well adept in the knowledge, in the skills that the person is supposed to use in delivering, then we have a huge challenge. And that is why these basic things that people are not able to do is a problem. Something, it didn't start yesterday. From 2018, when licensure examinations started, we started seeing these things. In fact, we have had occasions to bring stakeholders together. On many occasions, I've heard teacher unions talk that we should have stakeholder engagement and so on. It's fine, we are ready for it. But I can assure you that Angel, my brother, knows all these issues long ago. 4 years ago, he was aware of this. King Ali was aware of this 4 years ago. Musa was aware of this 4 years ago because we showed some of these.
You are mentioning people and you are not telling us who they are.
Oh, Angel Kabodo is the president of NAGRAT. King Ali is the president of CCT, and Musa is the general secretary of NAT. Beyond that, we have brought the universities together and made presentations to them. Some of these scripts that are in the system were not churned out by NTC. But what I can concede is that in most cases, when chief examiners finish their report, they attach some of these scripts as evidence of what is really prevailing. And they go through a lot of hands. Awards committee meetings, they have them. You have examination committee, and then you have the board. So it could have come from any of them who is so angry about what is happening. But the point is that it has always been there. And we have not sat down. We've been working behind the scenes, trying to find a way of dealing with this. That is why we are bringing a reform in the licensure examination. We have even approached first the Ministry of Education. We have approached Parliament, trying to see how we can restructure or reform the entry requirements and so on to the colleges and so on. So we have a challenge. And I must also concede that even they go beyond the training institutions, sometimes we have to also look at the foundational level, right from the basic school to the senior high to the university. Because if the person is really good at the senior high and really deserved the WASI results that the person really used to enter college, then the person shouldn't have had a difficulty going through the licensure exam. So it also brings to question what actually prevails at the WASI level. And I must concede that there are so many things that happen, and I don't blame WAEC so much. Sometimes they even put WAEC personnel in danger. We have cartels around that the nation is not talking about. Some people set up private schools, and they end up just cheating the system and getting people past examinations. And so when those people pass the examination, they really did not deserve the examination. I mean, the results they got. And if you don't create another sieve for them, a gatekeeping role somewhere to do a further check, then some people may slip in there who did not really qualify to be there.
You say, are you making some excuse for these people? That these are people who have actually been resitting or may have been resitting for the first time, second time, third time, or I don't know to what extent. And yet, you make an excuse for them. You want to put the blame partly on their teachers before they entered, the teacher training colleges, on their teachers before they got they wrote the exams, the WASI. You're making an excuse for them.
To some extent, because something, ordinarily, nobody is, excuse me to say, a stupid person. And so it depends on the strategy you use to train the person. And as they pass through all these hands, some diagnosis should have been made. If the person has a handicap somewhere, maybe medically or in any form, as they pass through this system, somewhere within the pipeline, somebody should have detected that this candidate or this learner has this issue and therefore must be handled differently, because we cannot handle everybody at the same level. Some people are very, very smart. Some are slow learners, but they catch up and they are very good, and so on and so forth. So if we had been able to identify some of these people and their challenges and dealt with them before they got to where they are now, probably we wouldn't have experienced.
Would you say that the exam or the test that they would have written earlier, which was stopped, and the interviews that they would have attended before being admitted to the teacher training colleges would have helped?
It would have helped in two ways. One, if a teacher education institution was going to admit you and having interviewed you and having taken you through the exam, had detected your challenge, let's say you had issues with literacy, well, right from the time that you were being admitted, I knew that you had a challenge in literacy. So why don't you introduce me something like English language for, English as a second language for this candidate as an extra tuition while he or she goes through the training process. By the time the person completes in the 4 years, whatever the challenge is might have been corrected. That's one way. So the entrance exam would have been diagnostic in one way or the other for them, and the interview would have to. Secondly, it would have also meant that it stopped you from even entering in the first place. Do your remedies before you get a chance to enter. And when you enter, then it becomes seamless and smooth for you to complete. So these were some of the things that we thought we were bringing forth so that it will help the candidates to do better. Because forget about those in the colleges of education which government is sponsoring. There are people who have gone through this training 4 years. Their parents have paid fees for 4 years for them to complete, only to realize that these are the kind of products they will present to all of us. It's a worry. And the candidate having also spent all the time in the world for 4 years to go through this training, only to get to this point to realize that, no, I don't even fit for this purpose. It's also a worry. So right from the gate of the training institutions, we should diagnose their issues. We should either stop them from wasting their time or prescribe other measures that will support them while they go through the training so that by the time they finish, they will be fit for purpose.
Right. I'll come to Peter Nochu, the MP who is on the ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament, to also glean what it is that they, at their level, have also discovered some of the reasons we are seeing these results. But let me go to a teacher, Professor Ransford Jampo. Prof, the teachers are not doing their job well to a certain extent, admittedly, to bringing up these people who eventually end up in the training colleges and are unable to pass very basic exams. What do you say? Hello, Professor Jampo. Okay. So Professor Nicholas Insoa, you have also been a teacher and you have been at the forefront of, education in this country and education reforms. Do you agree to that suggestion that this could be part of the reasons we have this class of students who can't seem to do the most basic things expected of a student, not even of a teacher?
And also to my other panel members. Yes, I myself, I'm a trained teacher.
Right.
I finished middle school, and then entered training college. And that time, there was what we call teacher training college examination. So entrance examination. So before you enter, you have to write the examination. So they sieve it. So those who enter, who get the opportunity to enter, are people who have really gone through some system. So that is where I agree with the first speaker, because if they used to have this entrance examination and interview and so forth, right from that time, that is when you know who really can continue, can go to the college and become a teacher. Because becoming a teacher is one way or the other going to be trained to be able to transfer knowledge. So first and foremost, you should have the knowledge before you are able to transfer it. So if we don't get the right people to enter the college, and anybody who passes C6 can just enter, then that is a big problem. And when you enter, you see, in fact, one other problem is that it's also possible that those who got C6, as the first speaker said, might not have even really gotten the C6 on merit. There could have been one way or the other, another way of getting it. Secondly, it is also possible, and this is where I want NTC or GTEC to verify those who passed or who did not pass, who have not been passing. They should go to the background and see their entry qualification.
That's right.
It is also possible that even in English they had F or they had whatever, yet they were able to enter. So I'm not saying that that's what has happened, but that is one way we should go around it to verify the qualification they used to enter. And remember, the NTC registrar was saying that those who failed, about 70% of those who failed are the distance students or the sandwich students. Yes. How can you be a teacher? You want to be a teacher, and you are sitting, you're somewhere, you go to your farm, you do everything, and then one weekend you go and meet somewhere, or sometimes you don't even go and meet anywhere. When we were going through the teaching, that's why the College of Education, perhaps they could even do better. When we were going through our program, you are always the classroom. There is a teaching practice. You go there, and they come. You prepare notes. So how could you prepare notes, write lecture notes, and go and stand before students? And when you are asked to write a letter, you are talking about Mr. Chairman, this and that. How did you go through even the first, the senior secondary school? How did you get to enter? So for me, the most important thing, the issue I think I foresee is the people who enter the colleges or the go to do education. Nowadays, for instance, in my village, I knew I wanted to be a teacher right from the beginning because that's the only person I saw as I could emulate.
Right.
So I decided I want to be a teacher. At the point, there are people who don't have that. It is because they didn't get another this thing. There's no way out, this and that. Then they decided that, let's pass through this route. And so my issue is, let us look at the entry qualification, go back to the NTC or GTEC should go back to the background of those who have passed or who didn't pass and verify the entry qualification. Again, you see, they didn't pass also sometimes because somebody was arguing that, why the questions they were set perhaps are outside what they have learned. How can you be asked to write a letter and you say it is outside what you have been trained or what you have been taught? The letter. It is also possible, now we are only looking at the literacy. It's also possible that when you go to the numeracy, it could be worse. Yeah, that may be simple division. The teacher may not even know, or they're not a teacher. The one who wants to be a teacher may not even know how to do. Or simple mathematics or arithmetic, they may not even know how to do. So NTC should also disaggregate. I mean, not just put them as 50% or so, 82% didn't pass, only so and so pass. They should take the courses one after the other and see the deficiencies also there. And then the picture will be clearer to us that a lot of them are not, were not good enough to be a teacher. Of course, this has established it. Maybe when it comes to the solution, then I'll talk about other things. But I think that is for me, the main issue NTC or GTech should consider.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Peter, what do you also find from your committee? You've been discussing these issues, and you have also been speaking about matters in the education sector for a while. You're writing just 3 papers: literacy, numeracy, and essential professional skills. It sounds unheard of that these mass numbers will fail such, small exams, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Samson. Let me begin by thanking the registrar of the NTC for the cooperation that the committee has been having from him for some time now. Anytime we call him, there's an issue. He's readily available to meet us. He invites us to their programs because anytime they come for budgetary session, we query them a lot. So he, in particular, invites us to some of their programs. This year, the exam in which we recorded this month.
Christian Adepoko has been in this education sector for
a very long time.
How many years now? For a very long time. 30 solid years. Yeah. Right.
So we visited.
I remember he was at the forefront of the NAGRATs.
Yeah,
some years back. He was president, vice president to president. So you know the problems. Yes.
So we visited Accra College of Education. That's my alma mater. We saw the conduct of the examination, and I can tell you that when we went round, I managed to look at the answers some of the candidates were providing to simple questions. I was surprised. I said, are these people going to teach our children? Then we are in trouble. Yes. Common spelling. My brother, it was just too bad. So we just observed it silently and went away. So when the results came up, I wasn't surprised at all. Now, you see, there are entry requirements to colleges of education as the registrar said. Yes, the minimum is 30. I think 36. That is 6 in all the 6 subjects. You are good to go. But when you go to where we have these distance programs, there is one entry requirement they call mature students. That is where the problem is. So you can get your E8 in English language all along. Then once you are 25 years, you qualify to do the program. And they are the problems, creating the problems in the service.
You spoke about the distance and the sandwich program,
yes.
Those who came through
Yes, yeah, so they are mature students, 25 years. But years ago, for you to be a mature student, I think it's about 35, 40. But they have brought it down to 25. So when they go there, they are not able to do well. We also have a problem with these distance programs. You see, you go to the nursing profession. I don't think they run any distance program or sandwich. No. You go to the College of Nursing, and that's where you are trained as a nurse, because you are coming to deal with human life. So if we are to teach, and you want us to do the course by distance, no, we have been telling the minister that the ministry must do something about it, because there is a mass production of teachers.
It reminds me of University of Ghana. To be able to take up the law program, if you are working, they will say you must undertake that you will not work whilst you are doing the program.
Yeah. So they are producing teachers on a mass basis, and they are able to pass the examination, because I don't even see the number of or the credit hours that they even earn. Whether they earn it genuinely, I don't know. So there's a need for the Ministry of Education and GTech to sit up. You know, this distance program came about during the National Youth Employment Program, when we have one module we call the Community Teaching Assistants. So those who had O-level or the WASE and they were at home doing nothing, they were engaged to help in teaching in these schools. But the ministry at a point saw that there was a need to train them if they wanted to be teachers. So the universities, I think Uniba and Kilkos were engaged to do this. And I'm sure the money business or getting a lot of money out of this motivated them to enroll people outside the youth employment program. And that's what has created the problem we are facing now. So it is the entry requirement that we need to look at critically. And why do we allow teachers to be trained on weekend basis? You see, as the last speaker said, yes, I sat for an entrance examination to college, or that time it was a training college. And after even passing, they will take you through interview, orally, and then when they find out that you are good, then they admit you. Yeah, so I think when he came last year and proposed that they wanted to conduct an entrance examination, well, we told them we needed a cabinet paper on it. It's a major policy. So go and then get a cabinet approval and come back. And if you do so, and then the committee is well convinced, then we'll approve it that there should be budgetary allocation for entrance examination to colleges of education. I think that is one way we can improve upon the caliber of people who enter the colleges of education. And these universities that are running service programs.
When you look at certain professions, like the legal profession,
yes,
I'm sure you are very familiar with what happens in this country. Yeah. Not only in this country, it's not peculiar to the Ghana School of Law, where 2,000 or so apply to study, and then they go through the entrance exam, and less than 80% get the opportunity. Yeah. Why do you think there is this, overwhelming concern about the teacher's situation, not as much as it happens to other professions like law, medicine?
No, if you go to almost every village in this country, there is a school. So there's a need for teachers. So the teacher turnout every year is great. People retire, people resign, people unfortunately also die whilst in service. So there's a need for replacement every year. Yeah, but I think the NTC, which at that time we were calling Teacher Education Unit, developed methods by which replacement could be done. So those years, we even had 2 categories of teachers, the trained teachers and then the untrained that we call pupil teachers. And pupil teachers in those years were very good. I was not taught by a trained teacher until I got to middle form 1. But they were very good. You see, that is why I am saying that we should take a second look at this distance training of teachers, because it is not helping the situation. Yeah.
So as we understand from you, there's a last opportunity for this number to retake the exam. What do you think you are encouraging? Somebody has sat this exam for how many times they can pass, and you still give them opportunity to sit. What do you think you are seeking to encourage here? Some say that's bad to start with, because you have seen that the quality assurance mechanisms for the entry level is the problem. And you want to cure the problem, and yet you are giving people how many times of an opportunity to still enter the profession?
Thank you very much, Samson. When we were in school, we used to have this poem we call, if at first you don't succeed, try again. So at the outset of the policy, the crafters didn't think about putting a cap on the number of times one could write the exam. So the old system made it so open. And so if you are phasing it out, you give the people the last opportunities. So we gave them 3 opportunities to, redeem themselves. 2 of them have just gone. It's left with the last one. We have to be committed to our promise. So that will be given. But the new one that is coming, definitely there will be a cap. There will be a cap on the number of times one can write the exam. And these people, we are not just seeing them. Some of them, of course, might not be cut up. Cut for, sorry, the right preposition. Cut for the job. And so may have to find their talent somewhere. But there are some of them that are redeemable. And so they may have to go through some training and so on and so forth and see if they can pass. If they're able to do that, that's fine. Other than that, they have to go for further studies, go to the university, study, and then come back and see if by that time they will be resourced enough to fit in.
Okay, there are questions specific to you, and I suspect that some of these people are quote-unquote victims. Ibrahim Bascoet says, ask the basis of assessment and why you have not come out with any book that will spell out what the teachers should know before going for the exam. Mohammed Lamin asked Dr. Ade, for me, why you don't integrate that discipline in the courses offered in the colleges of education. So if you want to take, there's one which is actually almost tied to Mohammed Lamin's question. Francis says, why is the exam not based on specialized areas, but rather generalized? Why should a teacher doing early childhood education write the same exams as a teacher specializing in mathematics or secondary education?
Okay, I'll take the last one first.
Right.
Something in teaching, we have two main basic knowledge. That is pedagogical knowledge and then content knowledge. So the pedagogical knowledge is about the professional aspect of it that any other person will not have. Somebody may be good at mathematics, but may not be good at how it is taught. That's the difference between any other person who wants to teach and a trained teacher. And so the current one that we run is mainly pedagogy, how the person can apply the knowledge, the content knowledge in the classroom. That's why we brought these things. We are unable to integrate it into the examination at the college level because NTC is a gatekeeper. Before you enter the teaching profession, you must cross us. And we have a national teacher education curriculum framework that defines the confines of the training. And so it's expected that by the time you go through the training institution, you would have been well educated in these areas. So when you come, whether you are from UDS, you're from University of Ghana, you're from Ken UST, you're from University of Cape Coast, we bring all of you together and assess you whether you were able to be trained in the curriculum that we have put in place. And so that's the basis. Two, we are not able to write.
Inherent in that question is the question by Sharon Ajiman. Why are kindergarten teachers and class 6 teachers writing the same exams? What is the meaning of basic maths and English?
Yes. Up to the senior high school, as I said, content knowledge is different. As for the content, somebody may be a specialist in geography. We have not assessed, but the new one that is coming, it will assess it.
Okay.
Hitherto, we were not assessing it. All we wanted to know is, if you get to the classroom, can you express yourself? Can you really communicate to the understanding of the learner? Can you apply basic numbers in filling your continuous assessment, in preparing your timetable, and so on and so forth? And can you apply the basic skills of pedagogy, classroom management, learning strategies, and so on? Basic for everybody. That's why we did it for all. Because whether you are in secondary school or you are in early childhood, you all need to communicate.
Right.
You all need to apply basic numbers in analysis. And then you all need some basic skills to handle learners. So we did a flat one. However, I acknowledge what you're saying. Over the years, we have had a lot of, the universities have come up critiquing this one, saying that, no, we need to do more. And so we are now shifting, not entirely from this one, but we are adding up.
Correct.
We are adding up. So we are now
So the literacy, numeracy, but you do your specialized area.
We are adding it to it. Because you cannot just go into the class without being literate enough or numerate enough. So we are adding the content knowledge because just as literacy and numeracy are exposing us now, there's a likelihood that content knowledge, some people will be exposed.
Professor Nsoaniama, what do you say? Do you agree that the suggestion is almost like scrap the literacy and numeracy thing and just examine us in the areas that we teach?
No, I don't. And it's also because, as the last speaker said, you need to communicate. So how do you communicate? You need to know some 1, 2, 3 calculations. How do that? And how can you say you are a trained teacher? When you go to, say, the basic school, the primary 1 up to 6 or so, in fact, we have a class teacher. You don't have a special teacher for each of the courses or the subjects. So when you are a class teacher, I don't know now, but at our time we were a class teacher, you teach all the courses, everything. But even if you are not supposed to teach all, you still have to be able, if you're a social science teacher, you should be able to read, understand, communicate to the students, or with the students. So that numeracy and literacy approach or courses or subjects have to be taught or have to be known by every teacher, because that's the basis for you being a teacher. And not only your specialization. Specialization, yes, is good, but even your specialization, how do you communicate your specialized subject, the knowledge to the students? If you take, say, for instance, you are teaching economics or even geography, whatever, there are some calculations there. So you should be able to also express yourself in those numbers and so forth. So those are the basic. The 2 courses or subjects are basic for every teacher, and that cannot be compromised.
Right. Professor Jampo joins us now. Prof, do you share the view that the examiners should simply examine these people in their areas of expertise rather than add numeracy and literacy? Hello, Professor Jampo.
Sorry. Hello.
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. The exam is a quality assurance mechanism to assure us that we have the best, or at least the people that are going to teach our children are competent. What do you make of the results that have come out from those who have done the research? Some have done it so many times, and yet only 80, as much as 83% failed.
Well, thank you, Samson. I think, first of all, I've been questioning the rationale for the introduction of the licensure exam. What did it seek to achieve? If for some reason we do not doubt, we do not believe in the kind of training that are given at the various teacher training centers, why don't we strengthen these trainings, improve their infrastructure, and ensure that they are able to deliver effectively on their mandate? Why don't we also infuse licensure exam as part of their exam, the exam at the various training teacher training centers, so that once a person gets out of the training center, he has his license? I do not see the essence of creating, always being in a rush to create parallel structures when problems that exist can be fixed. That's the first comment I want to make. I didn't know the reason why they went to sit in Parliament and to have this body to be doing this. Number two, I believe that Samson, the teaching profession, in my view, is a calling. I've been a teacher all my life. From 16 September 1996 up to now, I've taught in every department of teaching, from day nursery to KG to day nursery to lower primary to upper primary.
Okay. Okay, so Professor Jampo's line is breaking. But to his very first point about why he doesn't understand why this was introduced in the first place, we need to understand why he doesn't think it should be there. And there's someone, Mark, sending us a message from the US, and he's just going to check what someone needs to qualify to teach in kindergarten in New York State. And the results he gets is that you need a bachelor's degree. So you need to possess a bachelor's degree. You must have completed some early childhood education coursework or have significant experience working in early childhood education with children under 6. And you must commit to obtain a New York State early childhood teacher certification within 3 years of your employment. Yes, Professor Jampo. Okay, we still have a problem with Professor Jampo's line. So what do you make of the intervention that Mark brings in to ask Professor Jampo about why his problem that he has with this introduction?
I don't know. Change is always a challenge for a number of people. We had a system running, and there was no gatekeeper. But since the gatekeeper came, results that are coming are Professor Jampo's answers. Because it is clear that if we had allowed the system to run the way he is talking about, all these people who have not had the chance to enter our schools would have just gone in. And that is the reason that we foresaw that with the explosion of distance learning, with the decentralization of teacher education, you know, hitherto it was only University of Cape Coast and to some extent University of Education, Winneba, and then the colleges of education. Now KNUST runs education. University of Ghana runs education. UDS, Valley View, Catholic University, Presbyterian University, a number, Jackson College, so many. And so if all of them are sticking to a particular curriculum, when they are done, there must be somebody there, like all secondary schools running a NACA curriculum. When they finish, there is a WAEC there to test you whether you really implemented the curriculum the way it's supposed to be implemented.
So have you checked to tell us where these quote-unquote bad students are coming from? Who is churning them out? Which of the institutions?
Oh, we even have institutional, if you call it a league table. We drill it down. We know where they are coming from. Almost every institution has some failures. But if you rank them, it's there. We have not been able to bring it out, but it is there.
So you must be doing something to those institutions.
Absolutely.
Like the Ghana School of Law, there is a body in charge of legal education. So they get up and they say, we have blacklisted, this is your institution. It's not up to scratch. You don't have the requisite libraries. The faculty is not sufficient enough. So they have, for example, taken some schools out. You can't teach students law to come to, sit the exams for the practical.
Yes, Education Regulatory Bodies Act, which Honorable and his team passed for us in 2020, empowers National Teaching Council to do accreditation of both teacher education curriculum and then teacher education institutions. So while GTEC is doing it for general accreditation, we are supposed to do it for professional. And it was 2020 that was passed. We are still working on the framework to start accrediting them. And when the accreditation starts, it's there and then that we can write to you and say that the trajectory of the failures in your institution tells us that you do not fit to continue. All
right. Professor Jampo, you were making your second point when one of our viewers, listeners, brought in an intervention about your first point, that if you want the best, this is the way you must do. So he wants us to take an example from a kindergarten teacher, what you need as a qualification to teach at kindergarten level in the New York State.
Well, thanks to him. You know, like I said, I was only questioning the rationale for doing that, and if there is good justification for that. I mean, as an academic, we are trained to give in to superior wisdom and superior argument. And so if there is justification for that will be it. But generally, what I want to say, something, is that the teaching profession is a calling profession. Teachers are called to be teachers. Teaching profession is not just for anybody, but it appears to me that the caliber of people who are venturing into teaching profession nowadays are people who are using the profession as a guarantee against their potential joblessness in future. Now, people get to school, SHS3, and then they look at the fact that my senior brother has completed school for the past 5 years, he's not found job. My other sister has also completed school for the past 3 years, she's not found job. Then proactively, they tell themselves that then let me ensure that I don't go through the same challenge. And so let me go to a training college or training, let me go and train myself to be a teacher, because after all, when I'm done, I will be able to find job, and then I'll be able to receive some monthly salary. Now, because of this, people who do not have the calling to be teachers are all venturing into it as a source of employment for themselves. So they go and try the mathematics. They write it 1, 2, 3 times, math and English. They pass. They barely pass, and then afterwards they get into such training centers. If you have such people at those training centers, then when they are confronted with licensure exam, they will see the kind of responses or results that we've had. That is so embarrassing. The other point that will have to be made is that the quality of training and teaching at these training centers also must be interrogated and questioned. Many of these institutions train these prospective teachers via distance, and we know the challenges that distance learning face in our part of the world. Distance learning students are treated like second-class students, and the infrastructure is simply not there. And even when they have to meet their instructors once in a while, the numbers of students that the instructor will have to be engaging are such that no meaningful knowledge impartation can be given. And so, why not? If you go through this and you are confronted with licensure exam, you would have difficulty. When we were students, we spent all our time studying and we focused on it. Nowadays, you have people doing all manner of things. In addition, they tell you that we are also distance learning students, and then the infrastructure isn't there. Teachers are contending with numbers. The books are not there, and so many challenges. And so, if you subject them through some of these difficulties, and then you want another body that may be not unempathetic to the challenges that they may have gone through, ask them to conduct exams, then you are likely to confront some of these challenges. The other point that I want to make, I don't know whether it's controversial, but I will still make it anyway, is the fact that don't forget that we ourselves, we elected to tell the IMF that we would impose some public sector recruitment fees on ourselves. Now, if we did that, it means that we'll be the system itself will not be comfortable in absorbing the over 7,000 students who went to write the licensure exam. And so we must also, I know the respected Christian Adaipoku is in your studio, and then he may want to rebut this, but I want to also put as one of the possible explanatory variables as being the fact that the system itself is not ready to recruit more people.
So plainly, in plain language, what you are saying is that because we don't have the resources to engage more teachers, we have deliberately ensured this mass failure?
I've given several reasons. I said this one is also part of the could also be part of the explanatory variable, that the system itself is not even ready to recruit more people. And so we must also factor that into the equation. And then I want to make the point that I was also disappointed when I saw the scripts of the students that were displayed publicly for people, for Ghanaians to see. I've been told that it was not an official release from those who conducted the licensure exam. But I'm wondering the kind of system that they operate that will allow intruders to get into their system to openly, to bring out scripts that have been graded and then be openly showcased to embarrass prospective students. I think it is something that is not professional. It is something that is not acceptable. As a teacher in a university, if you conduct an exam and a student fails, I am not supposed to be showing the student the script. If the student doesn't agree with the grade that they have been given, the student is at liberty to go for it, apply for remarking, and there are processes. And so the bit about also showcasing or showing publicly the scripts that have been marked to make a case in support of the failure of the teachers.
But to that's your point, which you to that your point, which you said you didn't know whether it would be controversial. Some will say you shouldn't think about that in the first place. That it's wrong to contemplate such a thing, that the state will deliberately orchestrate the exam in such a way to fail those who are sitting for it, so that, you know, it will help its cause because it doesn't have money to hire more teachers?
Something. Don't make it a big deal. Ghana, do we really have a state? Are we not being operated by politicians? Is the state not being operated by politicians? You see, were we not here that we spent few sums of money to go and secure past questions, and we did all those things? So please, let us not say the state as if the state is some entity that the state itself is operated by human beings. And human beings are the ones who went to write this IMF deal, or who proposed or elected that, look, we may not be able to, we wouldn't want to, or we want to impose a certain public sector recruitment freeze on ourselves.
You are a teacher yourself. How is such a thing, a scheme, possible under your watch as a teacher?
Well, how is such a thing possible under my watch as a teacher?
Yes.
You see, to the extent that, you see, there is a deliberate effort to justify the failure. Okay, something, don't get me wrong, I have not used this as the only explanatory variable. I'm saying that it's an explanatory variable. It is the only controversial point. You noted that before you made it. Well, but I'm saying it is not the only variable. I said it's a possible explanatory variable. And I'm saying that what makes me even inch closer to that variable is the hit in which scripts have been thrown out there to justify or to support the mass failure, or to make a case that.
Right. Let me have Professor Nsua-Nneɛma. What do you think? Is what he's saying unthinkable?
Honestly, I don't want to support that, and that is because, you know, when the questions are set, it's not one person marking. These are different people with a marking scheme who go through the marking and then bring out the results. So for me, as a trained teacher, as a university lecturer, and so forth, I cannot see how I cannot think of how somebody will intentionally do things to be able to get students to fail to make a point. Honestly, I don't, but he has his own opinion. But in my opinion, I don't think that
Okay.
should be possible.
Now let's quickly outline some of your recommendations to overcome this this issue. It has become very clear, around this table that long distance and sandwich programs don't seem to give the students the best, and that this may largely account for what is happening. Number two, that the initial program where there was the opportunity to test the students and interview them before they gained entry into the teacher training colleges, that's, sifting system, the absence of it is also, to look at. And then the teachers who are teaching these students to write their WASI and so on also must answer some questions, because if someone has passed WASI and simply can't express themselves, can't write a full sentence to save their lives, then it's worrying. So what are some of the solutions that you proffer? Hello, Prof.
Yes, something. I think you have
Professor Newama first.
Okay. Yes. I think that the entrance examination for especially the colleges of education, for me, should come back, because that is where we have the receiving point. That's where we can know those who really want to be a teacher, who can be a teacher. That one, I think it should come back. When you come to the universities, because universities, you cannot control the admission, but there should be a cutoff point for those who want to go and do the Bachelor of Education, and especially because they are going to do the Bachelor of Education with the intention of coming to the teaching field. So they should have a cutoff point, not the aggregate 36 type of thing. They should have a cutoff point. Thirdly, they should NCTE or the GTEC.
Sorry. The cutoff point that you are seeking, just like we find if you wanted to go and do some other courses in Legon or elsewhere that you will encounter. Don't you think there is a certain disincentive? That is why for the teachers training colleges, a lot of room has been allowed. Else, you are not going to get people, unlike your days, when people looked up to a teacher and admired a teacher, were inspired by a teacher and wanted to be a teacher. Today, we celebrate money, quick money. It doesn't matter where it is coming from. So people are not looking up to a teacher and wanting to become a teacher. Don't you think if you put such stringent cutoff points, you are not going to have numbers in the teacher training colleges to be able to produce teachers to take care of our situation?
No, first and foremost, every year, I think the colleges of education, they have a lot of students who don't get admission. Even with this aggregate 36 or so forth, they still have a lot of students who can't get admission. That is one. Two, what is the point of getting people to go in because we need them, but they don't really qualify. They can't qualify. Why do they have to go and spend all the time there? And then in the long run, they can't get into the field where they wanted to go to. And it's also because once you get there, in fact, our days, the examination, you take it 3 times. First, you don't. Second, the third one, that is it. You finish it. So what is the point? And I know people who could not do it, so they had to go find their way somewhere. So what is the point of getting the mass people to go in? Because we want more students or more teachers. And then in the long run, those who qualify to be teachers are very few. Meanwhile, money has been spent on them during that time. So if you are not ready to be a teacher, you don't pass there. So for the entry qualification, it should not be a wholesale that because I want to be a teacher, and as somebody said, because I cannot do this, so let me pass through the College of Education, or let me go through this so I can become a teacher, not because he wants to be a teacher. So I think that we should not allow anybody at all who has decided to be a teacher for one reason or the other to come there and distort the system.
But generally, you will agree that we need a certain national, consciousness about what we choose to celebrate. We say the teacher's reward is in heaven. And all of this, we may not be thinking about the impact that it has on children and people who are growing up and want to decide on professions, that the teaching, profession will be the least that they will think about. We glorify wealth, quickly gotten, and we can't trace the source. In our various churches, the people with deep pockets are the ones who are deacons, and we are elevating them all the time. We are praising them. The teacher who is training, the minds of the generations, those who will, propel the nation's prosperity, hardly is recognized. So there is something that must be done nationally to the psyche of the Ghanaian, right?
Yes, I agree with you. Because even those days, we were highly respected. Those days in the villages, we were highly respected.
Right.
And the salaries were not high, but I think in those days it was reasonably good to survive in the village.
Right.
Yes. But now, if you get a graduate, a teacher, and perhaps you compare him to another graduate doing something else, you will see that the teacher is not paid very well. And so the idea that people, your reward is in heaven, now does not play any role at all.
Right.
So perhaps the ministry should think of a way of awarding teachers, perhaps not only maybe financially, but other incentives that they could create to make the profession very attractive. Right. And if it is attractive, people see it as attractive. We got attracted because those we saw in the villages were looking to us distant. They were, people you could emulate.
Yeah.
So if people now can see that, if you're a teacher, these are things that can happen to you, these are the benefits, these are this, I think you get a lot more people who would be interested in going to that field. So after sieving, you still get a lot of people who can still enter. So there should be a national policy to make the teaching field, the teaching profession a better place.
Thank you very much, Professor Ansua Nneɛma, for your time. Thank you very much indeed. And we were told these stories, and I'm not 50, but I was inspired by a teacher, and I wish initially I felt I wanted to be a teacher, but these days, people who are getting the best grades, so to speak, are hardly contemplating wanting to be a teacher. So, Prof. Jampo, what will be your list of recommendations to overcome this situation? Do you agree with what the council is thinking about to add examination on the subject areas that these teachers are involved in, and not limit them to only literacy and numeracy, so to speak?
Well, I think that I will make a recommendation that goes beyond that. Generally, I would agree with what the Professor Nneɛma, Nneɛma has said, that can we put in place mechanisms to ensure that only those who have the calling to be in the teaching profession get into it, that for me is key. That's the major thing, the main thing that we must put in place to ensure that people would not just get in because they are looking for jobs, but people who would get into the teaching will be aware that, look, it may not be well paying, but it's a noble profession that you may want to get in. And even though people say your reward is in heaven, sometimes if you work hard, you receive your reward here. And so we should ensure that those who get into the profession of teaching are people who have the calling on them. And then the other bit is that, yes, that will come in the receiving examinations that may be undertaken. We should ensure that only, if you are not academically brilliant, what business do you have going to teach? You are going to be teaching. And so you yourself must have a certain IQ, you must have a certain brilliance, you must have a certain smartness so that you can be able to impart same to students. And so there should be more receiving examinations that are undertaken or conducted to be able to ensure that those who get there to be trained have what it takes to receive further training as prospective teachers. I think if these two are done, then I think we may be making giant strides in our efforts to ensure that those who get into the profession are people who have what it takes to be there. But the other point that I made that you said you didn't allow me so much to make, I think the professor said he wouldn't think like the way I'm thinking. He did not say it is not a plausible explanation. So I maintain that as we look at
you could also say that he's being very diplomatic in his response.
Oh, don't reason for him,
because you just reasoned for him. You just reasoned for him.
So I'm saying that it is part of, but something. Really, if a government has said that there's going to be public sector recruitment fees, how is it going to absorb 7,000 prospective students into the system? Let's be. Has
there not always been some freeze of sort on some jobs? Must the government take, a deliberate step like a scheme, like you suggest is plausible, to fail teachers,
so if you
7,000 teachers?
You are just saying it's a reasonable guess that you are making, and I think I'm entitled to make that reasonable guess. So
yes, but you are making it on such a big platform, and what it might influence in the public discourse may not be the best.
Well, I wasn't emphatic. I said that it is a reasonable explanation. It's a plausible variable that will have to also be taken into account. And so if it is not the case, I'll be happy that I'm proved wrong. And it will be for the betterment of the good people of Ghana, because I've said, and labor unions have already made it clear to government that bit about public sector recruitment fees, it is not going to work. We'll fight against it. And so if this explanation...
The basic principle from where I sit is that he that alleges must prove. So you shouldn't wait to be proved wrong. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Those were good suggestions for recommendations for improving the system. Yes, you at the committee level in Parliament, a good number of you come together, to put your heads together over what can be done to improve the situation. So what are you thinking about? Dr. Prince Hamid Ama, MP for Kwesi Mintim, who is also Vice Chairman, Education Committee of Parliament, he says the results from the licensure exams validate, the policy decision to introduce the teaching regulatory body and the licensure regime. However, it's important to understand the underlying reasons for the mass failure. Beyond verifying the background of the candidates, we need to map the candidates who failed to the colleges they graduated, together with the modes of training, whether private or public, distance or full-time. Such desegregated data will help in policy reform at both the college level and systems level. It's also important to map the exams with the College of Education curriculum and the teacher education curriculum framework to identify alignments or otherwise. NTC, GTEC should rank and publish the performance of candidates according to their schools. This could serve as demand-side accountability system and invoke some competition among the colleges. Parents, guardians are likely to apply to the high-performing colleges for their children or wards.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the registrar has promised that he will segregate the results and provide a committee with what the vice chairman is asking for. Because if we just enveloped the failure and then blame it on one institution or the other, I think it will not be fair. So he has promised, and I know he will see us on it. Yeah, so the committee, as I said earlier, we've been working with him. But we need to look at some of the requirements and then the recommendations that people are making. Especially me, I have challenge with the distance and the sandwich. That one, the NTC, as a regulatory body, must look at it carefully. At what level do we have mature students? Is it because somebody has just finished GSS for 10 years and he can go and then study to become a teacher? No, I think we don't have to cheapen teacher education in the country. That's why I support the entrance examination, because we'll be able to sieve those who are good and those who cannot make it. Yeah. So, yes, I think WAEC should also be helped by authorities that are responsible. Because if you go to examination centers, the cheating that takes place is not good. Things were not like that. Students these days are not ready to learn, but they want to pass. You see, so if we don't put measures in place, I think we'll continue to have these type of results. Okay. And where even communities are ready to support cheating in the school examination. It's not the best. We have records of all those things. Well, I think as a country, we need to take a second look at our educational system. All right. How do we make sure that we get the best of our children when they go to school? Yes, then the subject area examination. Yeah, I think that is important. But what we also need to do is, if you just go academic, what about the professional aspect of it? That one, they should not gloss over it. Yeah, but I think finally, the NTC, as a regulatory body over teacher education in the country, should also make it part of the curriculum in the colleges of education, so that as they progress from level 100, by the time they reach level 400, as they are coming out, they write the licensure examination.
They write it immediately?
Immediately. Yeah, they don't need to come out, go for national service for 1 year, and then set a time for them maybe after 1 year or more before they write the examination.
You're encouraging the chew and pour kind of habit.
Not necessarily, because when they go on national service, they didn't forget about it.
When you do the service, you acquire experiential knowledge.
Yeah, that is a different thing.
You get practical, hands-on stuff that you can use. And that's actually the best measure of who you really are when you put that on paper.
Yeah, you'll be surprised that even some of them from the university doing their Bachelor of Education, they don't go to the classroom for national service. They want even to be at the bank. They want to be as SNIT. They want to be at so place. We're surprised. So
we should not be encouraging that.
Yeah.
So we should not be encouraging that. That you make them come and write for a professional certificate when all they want is to go and sit in a bank.
But let them write as they are. Because if we look at the nurses, they finish, as soon as they finish, they write their licensure examination. And that is the end.
But professions, you know, for the professions that many envy and want to belong to, there is continuous, examination.
Yeah, but
that will add to prove that you are still up to scratch.
Yeah, but after your licensure examination and you are employed, at least for your promotion, they have other programs that they run for them, which I think they use as credit hours. Then that can add up for your promotion.
Okay. Yes,
that is what I will.
Dr. Adepoku, there are people who are asking questions, including Fred Forsing, who is questioning bottom line. He has a number of questions, but the bottom line is that what is it that this exam will do for a student who has been professionally sort of certified by the UCC, gone for training as a teacher, and he's passed out as a teacher? What will 2 hours of exam add to that student?
Okay, something. Before I tackle that question, a little to what Honorable said. On the national service bit, so those who train as teachers, when it is time for posting, they post all of them to schools so that we can monitor them, because they go through induction training. And the reason we are not able to do the examination immediately they complete the university, one of the reasons is that when you complete, it takes time for them to compile the results for you to graduate. And the first condition is that you must graduate. When you complete university in, let's say, August, maybe by September, you do the graduation. We used to write the examination, the first one in September. Candidates apply and they do it. But this particular year, 2022 batch, because of the reforms that we are embarking, theirs have delayed for almost a year. That's acknowledged. Coming to the substantive question that the person asked, people have critiqued examination over years, that it's not the best measure of people's competence. But the unfortunate thing is that the world has not been able to find a substitute for examination. And so, yes, UCC might have trained you and given you a certificate. But if UCC has trained you and given you a certificate to go and teach, and you cannot write a simple letter of 200 words, that is the question that my brother should ask University of Cape.
You are actually embarrassing that institution.
I'm not doing
You're embarrassing your teachers. I'm not saying you. Yes. I'm saying the one who sat that exam. Yes. You're embarrassing your teachers.
That's it. So the sentimental aspect must be taken out of the system and look at the problem critically. Coming to Professor Jampo's issue of IMF pinch of salt theory, I want to say that, honestly speaking, I've listened to him and he articulates very well. But on this particular one, being a teacher, I expected very little on this. Because you are a teacher, you know that with your professional competence and professional autonomy, you will not want to mark a student to fail when the student has actually passed an examination. And those who mark these scripts that I'm talking about are from the universities and colleges. So they are his colleague professors and doctors who are marking these licensure examination. They set the questions, the chief says, I don't set questions. I am just the moderator here, but the questions are set by professors and doctors like him. And when we finish, we calibrate the results and release. So for him to question the results in that way, and in fact, there is a trend. There's a trend every year. In fact, my minister asked me to do a 3-year analysis for him. And cumulatively, we have about 36% of the candidates failing for the past 3 years. And there are many factors that are contributing to this. We don't have the time. I would have opened up and give you a lot of reasons. Hitherto, people were passing very well 2018, 2019, 2020 because we were not serializing the questions. And essential professional skills, for instance, is purely multiple choice. So if an invigilator looks away and allows candidates to teach in the examination hall, what was happening is that somebody would just go and answer all the questions, come and stand there and say number 1, A, B, C, and everybody will pass. So in 2020, we introduced something we call serialization of the questions. I'm telling you something, that year, we had 76% failure. And then the Minister of Education said, no, if you have had this, candidates are complaining about reading materials and other things, so can we do something? So we decided that we were going to have we call it, we had a number of questions, put them together and put them online for test preps. So the candidates could go online. The moment you register for the essential exam, a link is sent to you, and then you go online. There are sample questions, about 600 of them, for you to practice, so that it will help you.
They are the bigger problems. You see, students at Asahi University are not invigilated for the exams they take. Students in a Bible college, people who are preaching the word of God have to be invigilated because they are caught cheating. So this is the problem. But Professor Jampo had, what he said is the overriding recommendation, far-reaching, that you make sure that nobody gets into the college who hasn't got sort of a calling to be a teacher.
I like that.
How are you going to do that?
I like that because apart from the exam, the interview, you go through inventory. So the inventory will tell us whether you have the attitude and aptitude to be able to...
Is that really possible?
Oh, many professions do that. They have a well-established inventory that when the candidate sits before you, you ask the person questions that will expose the candidate whether the person is using teaching as a stepping stone or really is interested in becoming a teacher. It may not be 100%, but it will give you some level of credit.
If you ask the Venerable Sam Okujeto, who has taught us law for a long time, he will tell you that when you ask the students when they come fresh and he's teaching them, and he's asking them, what's your motivation? They will all say, we want to get a law degree, a certificate, called to the bar to practice, so that we can help the downtrodden, so that we can help the vulnerable and the poor. But once they finish, almost 90% stay in Accra. If you had 100 who came from Kumasi, you may have just about 5 of them returning. So we are hypocritical.
Well, that may be true to some extent, but over the years, these are inventories that have been applied in academia to test people's attitude towards these things. So maybe...
So how soon do you want to introduce the new one, where you are bringing in the specialization as well?
I've sent my memo to the minister.
Okay.
And as Honorable indicated, they would need cabinet approval. So the minister will go through the process. I'm just hoping that by November, when we are defending our budget, they will give us the approval and the funding to be able to do it.
All right. Thank you so very much. My guests you have been listening to over the last almost 2 hours dedicated to this very important subject matter. Dr. Christian Ade-Poku is the Registrar of the National Teaching Council. Professor Nicholas Nsoah-Nneoma is President, Dominion University College. And Peter Nochu is MP, Akachi North, and Ranking Member, Education Committee of Parliament. Ramford Jampo is Professor of Political Science, University of Ghana. We'll take a quick break. When we return, I have Alex Segbefia, Director, NDC International Relations Directorate, Ben Epson, pollster and Managing Editor, Daily Dispatch newspaper. Professor Jampo stays with us, and Richard Ahiagba, Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party, will join us to look at matters arising from Asin North and the 7 who have filed their nominations, hoping to lead the NPP into the 2024 elections. We'll be right back.